During the fall of 2010, ABC Channel 7 meteorologist Heidi Jones told law enforcement that a man had grabbed her from behind and dragged her into some nearby bushes while she was jogging in New York City's Central Park. 2 months later, the 37-year-old claimed that she had been attacked by the same man outside her apartment building. Jones provided detectives with a description of the alleged attacker, who she said was a Latino man. Based on these characteristics, an innocent man was briefly detained for questioning. Jones's story fell apart during her continued conversations with law enforcement, and she eventually admitted that she had falsified her claims. In December of 2010, she was charged with misdemeanor false reporting and was suspended from her job pending the outcome of the case. Shortly after her arrest, Jones denied ever claiming that someone had assaulted her. Prosecutors stood by their allegations against her, arguing that she made up the story for attention while under personal and professional stress. In September of 2011, Jones pleaded guilty to 2 counts of false reporting. She was sentenced to 3 years of probation and ordered to perform 350 hours of community service. After parting ways permanently with ABC, she went on to work as a CrossFit instructor at various New York City gyms and appears to still be working in the fitness industry. Number 19. Jimmy Spencer. Late one night in July of 2023, police in Austin, Texas, responded to an accident along the Mopac Expressway where a car had struck a barricade. They arrived to find 59-year-old meteorologist Jimmy Spencer standing next to his Lexus. He told officers that another car had forced him off the road by merging aggressively. Inside the vehicle, the police found several unopened cans of beer and hard seltzer and a spilled liquid that smelled like an alcoholic beverage. Spencer claimed that he drank 2 beers several hours earlier, but a breathalyzer revealed a blood alcohol content nearly 3 times the legal limit. The Emmy Award-winning semi-retired weatherman, who has been forecasting the weather on news station KXAN for 33 years and counting, failed a field sobriety test due to his inability to stand on one leg without swaying. He was booked into the Travis County Jail on a misdemeanor drunk driving charge and was subsequently released on a $3,000 bond. According to the most recent available update from several days after his arrest, Spencer had hired a defense attorney to represent him in the case. Neither Spencer nor his employer have commented publicly on the matter. Updates have not been forthcoming, leaving the current status of the case unclear. Number 18. Holly Strano. On Thanksgiving night in 2023, Emmy Award-winning meteorologist Holly Strano crashed her Cadillac into a utility pole in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Just moments earlier, her vehicle had drifted across the center line and driven off the road while driving more than 70 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone. According to a police report, emergency responders noticed that Strano smelled of alcohol. After declining medical treatment, she was taken down to the police station where a breathalyzer revealed a blood alcohol content of more than 3 times the legal limit for driving. She was charged with operating a vehicle while impaired and was taken off the air until her case was resolved. 2 months after her arrest, Strano pleaded guilty to the OVI charge and was ordered to attend a 6-day driver intervention program. She was also fined $375 and banned from driving for a year, with the exception of being allowed to apply for work-related driving privileges. In a Facebook post on the day of her sentencing, Strano expressed deep remorse for her actions. She reassured that she knew she had to re-earn the public's trust after her regretful decisions and has since returned to her employer of over 2 decades, WKYC, as she continues to focus on her sobriety. Number 17. Tori Smoyer. Kentucky State Troopers raided the Paducah home of 32-year-old meteorologist Victoria Tori Smoyer and her husband, 35-year-old Tyler Smoyer in February of 2016 after receiving an anonymous tip about an indoor marijuana growth operation. During the search, law enforcement found 5 marijuana plants, 8 guns, including 6 long guns and 2 pistols, 2 silencers, ammunition, a tactical vest, and equipment that is typically used for growing marijuana. The Smoyers were charged with cultivating 5 or more marijuana plants, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug paraphernalia along with a gun-related enhancement. At the time, Tori was employed with NBC affiliate WPSD Local 6. She was planning to leave the network later that month, so she never returned to work after her arrest. Tori and Tyler's defense attorney fought to have certain evidence declared inadmissible in court, arguing that state troopers did not follow the proper protocol for obtaining an arrest warrant. The couple wasn't home at the time of the search, which their lawyer claimed was executed illegally. The judge granted the motion to suppress, resulting in the prosecution's decision to drop the charges entirely because they had no way to argue the case without the evidence. Number 16. Steve Raleigh. In June of 2024, a popular Cincinnati, Ohio weatherman was accused of assaulting an elderly couple in a fit of road rage, leading to calls for his termination from local news outlet WCPO, where he served as the chief meteorologist. According to reports, the fight occurred after Steve Raleigh's son failed to yield to traffic in a restaurant parking lot and crashed into the senior citizen's truck. The confrontation that ensued quickly escalated into violence, leaving 79-year-old Douglas Nathaniel Morrow and his 76-year-old wife badly beaten. Morrow's daughter, Stacy Morrow Strickland, posted disturbing footage of the altercation on social media, along with the caption, "These were locally famous people and, in my opinion, believe they are above the law." One video showed a man and a woman lying on the ground while someone shouted that the woman was bleeding, while another clip showed 2 men shoving each other. According to Morrow Strickland, her father had dialed 911 after the accident based on his suspicions that Raleigh had been drinking. She said that this is what sparked the violence, which left her mother with a skull fracture, a concussion, a detached retina, and brain bleeding. Morrow Strickland's father also suffered a concussion, and both victims were covered in cuts and bruises. Police did not confirm whether one of the men in the video was Raleigh, but his employer confirmed that his family was involved in the incident. No charges have been filed in the case, leading to allegations of a cover-up. According to the most recent available updates, Raleigh remains off the air amid an ongoing investigation which is being overseen by a special prosecutor. Number 15. John Arens. In October of 2015, 38-year-old meteorologist John Arens was charged with misdemeanor assault for allegedly assaulting his estranged wife, Sabrina Driver, in Charlotte, North Carolina. Driver accused Arens of throwing rocks at her during a child custody exchange, resulting in a laceration that required stitches. At the time, Arens and Driver were in the throes of an acrimonious divorce and child custody dispute. Both parties had accused one another of having mental health issues, and Arens was in the process of suing Driver in civil court for defamation and slander. Arens denied the assault allegation, claiming that the custody exchange occurred without incident, but he was nevertheless arrested and spent 2 nights in jail before being released on his own recognizance. Less than a week later, he was charged with violating an order of protection which banned him from contacting or going near their child, and he spent another weekend in jail. In the meantime, he was taken off the air but continued to work in the newsroom at WSOC Channel 9. The beleaguered weather forecaster continued to maintain his innocence, and in January of 2016, he was acquitted of the assault charge. he returned to the air and was named WSOC's chief meteorologist in 2024. Number 14. Chelsea Ambris. 26-year-old weather forecaster Chelsea Ambris was arrested in August of 2018 following a barroom brawl with her co-worker, Erica Bivens, in Charlotteston, West Virginia. According to a police report, Bivens accused Ambris of flirting with her husband during a girls' night out charity event, leading to a shoving match between the women. Ambris was accused of shoving Bivens to the floor with such force that she suffered a skull fracture and a ruptured eardrum. Based on this version of events, prosecutors charged Ambris with misdemeanor battery. She adamantly maintained her innocence and planned to take the case to trial, but the case was dismissed in January of 2019 when Bivens failed to show up for court. Ambris's attorney, Joseph Spano, told the West Virginia Record that he planned to call 4 impartial witnesses to the stand to discuss what they saw on the night of the incident. He said that the eyewitness testimony would have proven that Bivens was the aggressor, and he also filed a motion to dismiss the case based on a lack of evidence. In the weeks leading up to the decision to drop the case, both Ambris and Bivens left their positions at Huntington-based news station WSAZ-TV, but the network declined to comment on the situation, citing it as a personnel matter. Ambris currently works as a meteorologist for NBC6 in South Florida. Number 13. Bill Evans. In 2013, after nearly 2 decades of marriage, 52-year-old meteorologist Bill Evans and his wife Dana became entangled in a contentious divorce. They were both arrested in June of that year, several weeks after a heated argument at their home in Old Greenwich, Connecticut, which Dana had reported at the urging of her divorce attorneys. According to court documents, the incident began with an argument over how the family's cars were parked in the driveway. Bill and Dana pointed the finger at one another as the aggressor, resulting in charges against them both for third-degree assault and disorderly conduct. In response to Dana's allegations, Bill accused his estranged wife of punching him in the head, then reaching down his pants and scratching his privates hard enough to draw blood. The WABC-TV forecaster also claimed that Dana had hit him in the back and buttocks with a clothes hanger and humiliated him in front of their children. Dana accused Bill of punching her in the eye and claimed that any of the actions she took against him were done in self-defense. Following the arrests, both parties' attorneys said that they expected their client to be cleared of any wrongdoing. While the outcome of the case is unclear, Bill remarried and continued to work for WABC-TV until early 2019, when he left to operate the Long Island radio station WLNG, which is based in Sag Harbor. He continues to run the station today as its chief meteorologist and apprentice DJ. Number 12. John Bolaris. During a trip to Miami in 2010, Philadelphia-based meteorologist John Bolaris was drugged by a pair of attractive Russian-sounding women he met at a bar, who persuaded him to do shots and to continue on to another drinking establishment. The 52-year-old would later say that his memory became spotty during a taxi ride to their next destination. He vaguely remembered signing something and returning to his hotel with a large painting. Bolaris knew that something strange had happened, but he wanted to return the painting and had left behind a pair of sunglasses that he wanted back. He agreed to meet up with the women again, and once again he blacked out and woke up the next morning with no memory of the previous night. Nearly $44,000 in charges had been made to his American Express account, including $2,500 for the painting. At this point, Bolaris knew he had been scammed. After failing to successfully dispute the charges, he went to the FBI, which was already investigating these types of crimes among nightlife venues in South Beach, Women like the ones Bolaris met, known as B-girls, were getting unsuspecting men drunk, drugging them, and charging exorbitant sums on their credit cards for liquor they never bought. In one instance, someone forged the undercover agent's signature when he didn't sign a bill. The scam was run by an Eastern European crime ring, which swindled up to $1 million from nearly 90 known victims. At the top of the chain of command was Russian businessman Alex Simchuk, who flew the B-girls in from Europe and owned the clubs where the fraudulent charges were made. In 2011, Simchuk and 18 others, including over a dozen B-girls, were indicted on federal charges relating to their crimes. Most of the defendants admitted to their charges, including Simchuk, who pleaded guilty to wire fraud and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, and most of the B-girls were deported. Later that year, Bolaris was fired from Fox 29 for reasons unrelated to the Miami incident. He retired from meteorology in 2016 and is currently working in real estate. Number 11. Jorge Torres. While working security in El Paso, Texas, late one night in January of 2013, an off-duty county constable noticed morning meteorologist Jorge Torres acting intoxicated outside of a nightclub. He put Torres in a cab, but the weatherman caught the attention of another off-duty constable a few hours later when he was heard making a ruckus in a shopping plaza parking lot. Torres was reportedly banging on the hood of an SUV and yelling profanities. The constable observed several signs of intoxication, including a strong odor of alcohol and glassy bloodshot eyes. When questioned about his alcohol consumption, Torres admitted to drinking at least 8 rum and cokes, which he described as a conservative estimate. He was booked into jail on charges of public intoxication and disorderly conduct, but the case was dropped about a month later. Later that year, Torres left El Paso to work for a news station in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He currently works for Phoenix-based ABC 15, Arizona. Number 10. Jack Holland. In February of 2016, 23-year-old KMVT-TV meteorologist John Jack William Holland was accused of forcing himself on a woman at his apartment in Twin Falls, Idaho. The alleged victim claimed that Holland refused to take no as an answer when they went to his place for a nightcap after meeting in public for drinks. She was able to accurately describe the layout of Holland's apartment, along with evidence that she had been there, including a wine glass with her lipstick on it. Police collected the glass during a search of the residence, and it was clear, based on the contents of Holland's wastebasket, that he had recently been intimate with someone. Holland pleaded not guilty to a felony charge and was taken off the air while he fought the case. He insisted that the encounter was consensual, and a friend of the victim testified in court that the woman had said she hooked up with Holland, but didn't make any mention of the activity happening against her will. Despite the conflicting evidence, the judge bound the case over for trial. Prosecutors dropped the charges 5 months after Holland's arrest, following a review of the statements and evidence. Holland had the option of returning to KMTV, but instead chose to move to Florida to be closer to his family and pursue other opportunities. Number 9. Mark Prater. 8 months after leaving his job as chief meteorologist for Birmingham, Alabama's CBS 42 network in April 2018, for reasons that were never made clear, 49-year-old Mark Prater was charged with felony domestic violence-related stalking. According to police reports, Prater harassed a woman incessantly over a several-day period with 17 calls, 37 emails, and unwanted visits to her Trustville home. He was accused of threatening to interfere with the woman's custody of her child by going through the child's father. In August of 2019, Prater pleaded guilty to a reduced misdemeanor charge of non-domestic violence-related harassing communications. He received a 12-month suspended prison sentence along with 2 years of unsupervised probation. Number 8. Ronald Panowski. In April of 2020, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office in Nebraska learned that the local health director, Dr. Addie Prer, had been receiving emails and phone calls from someone who threatened to lynch her and slice her throat. Over a 2-week period, she received 15 emails referencing her response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In one message, the sender called Dr. Prer a dictator and warned her to back off this ridiculous order to shut down the city. The person clearly thought Prer was overreacting to the crisis and was also accusing her of causing economic chaos. Anytime Dr. Prer blocked an email address, the sender made a new one and continued sending messages. The perpetrator also tried to conceal the source of the messages, but law enforcement traced the emails to meteorologist Ronald Panowski, also known as Ron Gerard. He was charged with making terroristic threats and stalking. 4 months after his arrest, Panowski pleaded no contest to 2 counts of third-degree assault. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation and was ordered to undergo mental health treatment. Number 7. Mike Davis. Acting on a tip that local meteorologist Mike Davis had sent and received a significant amount of inappropriate images, an internet crime task force in Franklin County, Ohio, busted the former weatherman in September of 2019. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 4 to 6 years in prison in May of 2020. Davis claimed ahead of his sentencing that he was unaware that he was harming anyone by collecting thousands of illicit files over a 7-year period, started in 2012. He tried to get released from prison early in late 2021, but his request was denied. In 2024, news outlets reported that Davis had been released from prison after serving the 4-year minimum of his term. It's unclear what he's up to these days, but he is certainly no longer a staple of his local news. Number 6. Rob Lopicola. In July of 2012, former WPTV Channel 5 weatherman Robert J. Lopicola was arrested in Palm Beach County, Florida, on charges of lewd and lascivious battery and other crimes revolving around alleged inappropriate behavior toward young people. The 42-year-old, who had been with the network for nearly 8 years, abruptly resigned from his job following his arrest at his home in Wilton Manors. According to arrest reports, 2 young men claimed to have engaged in illicit relations with Lopicola between August of 2010 and January of 2011. After connecting with him through Craigslist personal advertisements, Lopicola was ultimately convicted of the charges and received a nearly 5-year prison sentence. His troubles deepened in September of 2014 when he was indicted on federal wire fraud charges for allegedly participating in a $14.5 million telemarketing scam. News reports state that Lopicola engaged in the fraudulent activity while incarcerated and that he and others bilked unsuspecting timeshare owners out of millions of dollars. The former weather forecaster could have faced up to 25 years in prison if convicted as charged, but he was sentenced to 21 months after pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud. Since serving his time, it appears as though Lopicola has managed to avoid further trouble with the law. He is now a self-proclaimed entrepreneur who advertises his services in helping others overcome the same types of addictions that landed him in legal trouble to begin with. Number 5. Fred Tolbert. During the 1970s and 80s, former Grenada TV meteorologist Fred Tolbert committed crimes against school-aged males during trips to Scotland. At the time of his crimes, he was working as a biology teacher in Manchester, England. Tolbert's actions did not catch up to him until 2015, when he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for assaulting 2 victims. More recently, in 2017, Tolbert was found guilty of additional assaults following a 9-day trial and was jailed for 4 more years to be served consecutively to the term he was already serving at the time. Number 4. Eric Law. In March of 2013, meteorologist Eric Law of the Jackson, Mississippi-based news station WLBT was arrested on suspicion of battery against a teenager. He pleaded guilty to the charge later that year and was sentenced to 8 years in prison plus 12 years suspended, along with 5 years of probation following his prison term. According to prosecutors, the incident involved a victim in Law's home. As part of a plea agreement, authorities agreed to drop 2 gratification of lust charges and 1 battery count. Following the sentencing hearing, District Attorney Michael Guest said, "This sentence is not only what we wanted, but more importantly what the family wanted to see. That justice was served in the eyes of the victim's family in this case." Number 3. Nicole Mitchell. Early one morning in April of 2024, police responded to a reported burglary at a residence in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. When they arrived, they came face to face with 49-year-old state senator, Air Force veteran and former meteorologist Nicole Mitchell. The home belonged to Mitchell's stepmother, but Mitchell reportedly had no valid reason to be there. Officers found her in the basement, wearing all black and with a flashlight in her hand, shortly before 5 o'clock in the morning, resulting in her arrest on suspicion of burglary. According to court records, Mitchell told law enforcement that she had just arrived at the residence, then added, "Clearly, I'm not good at this." She claimed she was there to retrieve some items that her stepmother had refused to give to her, including a flannel shirt, family photos, and her father's cremains. Inside Mitchell's bag, officers found a laptop belonging to her stepmother, who denied giving the device to the senator. In addition to facing a burglary charge, Mitchell has fallen under the scrutiny of her colleagues, some of whom have called on her to resign. She announced through her attorneys that she has no plans to step down from her post, and she refused to answer questions during an ethics hearing. The case is ongoing, along with a separate lawsuit demanding the release of body cam footage of Mitchell's arrest. According to the most recent available updates, Republican senators have made an unsuccessful attempt to expel Mitchell from the state Senate. The outcome of the case and its impacts on Mitchell's career remain to be seen. Today's topic was requested by April Shower 777, Cali Girl living in Nevada 8, and Nikki123BXD. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Andrew Clark. 23-year-old meteorologist Andrew Clark had just finished up his 10 p.m. newscast for Dothan, Alabama-based news station WDHN when he was arrested for misdemeanor stalking in January of 2023. The alleged victim claimed that Clark frequented the restaurant where she worked, requested her table specifically, and would stay for hours. She also accused Clark of following her home from work and showing up in the parking lot of her apartment complex. Clark was taken off the air while the case worked its way through the court system. About 6 weeks after his arrest, the charges were dropped due to a lack of evidence. He has since returned to his position as a weekend meteorologist for WDHN. Meteorologists are not immune to making horrible mistakes. But what drives TV viewers to commit heinous crimes? Stay tuned for our previous upload of When the Audience Goes Wrong, coming up right after number 1. Number 1. Kevin Benson. In September of 2019, a police officer pulled over 60-year-old meteorologist Kevin Benson along a Pittsburgh highway in response to a call about an erratic driver. The longtime WPXI TV weatherman was reportedly uncooperative with medical staff after being taken to the hospital for a blood draw, which revealed that his blood alcohol content was nearly 4 times the legal limit. Benson was charged with 3 misdemeanor counts of driving under the influence and 4 vehicle code violations, including not wearing a seatbelt. He was fired from WPXI shortly after his arrest, bringing his more than 30-year career at the station to an end. The outcome of his criminal case is unclear. Number 9. Steve Brown. On the night of January the 21st of 2018, stand-up comic Steve Brown was performing at the Comedy House in Columbia. South Carolina, when he was violently attacked by an enraged member of the audience. In the wake of the incident, the Richland County Sheriff reported that the suspect, identified as Marvin Totley, had taken great offense to something Brown had said during his comedy routine. Eyewitness testimony revealed that Totley vaulted over a table to get onto the stage, at which point he began throwing punches at the comedian, who successfully dodged the attacks. As was captured in a shocking video of the assault, Totley then grabbed the microphone stand and repeatedly swung it at Brown before picking up a wooden stool and tossing it in the comic's direction. Roughly 20 seconds into Totley's onslaught, two people rushed to the stage and positioned themselves between him and Brown. The former was then taken out of the venue by security, and a few days later, he was arrested on charges of third-degree assault and battery and malicious injury to property. Following his performance that night, Brown posted a video to Instagram in which he suggested that comedy clubs should be held accountable for their lack of proper security. Number 8. Taylor Swift. On August the 4th of 2015, Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter Taylor Swift was performing at the Rexall Place in Edmonton, Canada, as part of the world tour of her 2014 synth-pop album, 1989. While then 25-year-old Swift sang one of the record's hit singles, Bad Blood, she had a frightening and involuntary interaction with a member of the audience. As was captured by concert-goers' cell phone cameras, a man suddenly rushed towards the stage and lunged forward in an attempt to grab Swift's leg. Visibly startled, the pop icon stopped singing and stumbled backwards to avoid the fans' reach. Then a few seconds later, she resumed her performance as if nothing had happened. Although it wasn't shown in the video, which went viral in the incident's aftermath, subsequent reports suggested that the unidentified audience member had been swiftly dealt with by security. Number 7. Estan Alvarado. During a Dutch Cup match between AZ Alkmaar and Ajax FC on December the 28th of 2011, a young man wearing jeans and a black t-shirt ran onto the pitch and began charging towards Costa Rican goalkeeper Estan Alvarado. The latter noticed the incoming fan just in time to mount a defense and ended up knocking him to the ground. Alvarado then kicked the 19-year-old pitch invader multiple times while he was lying on the grass. Stewards rushed to the scene and escorted the fan off the field, while Alvarado was subsequently issued a red card for misconduct. In the immediate aftermath, AZ Alkmaar's head coach walked onto the pitch and told his team to go back to their locker room. Representatives from both teams, along with stadium officials, ultimately decided to cancel the match, which was then rescheduled for a later date. The Dutch Football Association eventually rescinded Alvarado's red card, while his unidentified attacker was reportedly jailed for a period of 6 months. Number 6. Slash. British-American musician Saul Hudson, better known by the stage name Slash, rose to prominence in the 1980s and 90s as the lead guitarist for the California hard rock band Guns N' Roses. In 2010, Hudson was playing the solo from one of the group's most famous songs, Sweet Child of Mine, during a concert in the Italian city of Milan. At the height of his performance, he was suddenly charged by a rowdy member of the audience. Subsequent reports described the male fan as having been shirtless, with dried blood splattered around his mouth. He emerged from the side of the stage and launched himself at Hudson. Fortunately, a security guard had already been in pursuit and managed to tackle the man to the ground before he grabbed the guitarist. While Hudson was left unharmed, the neck of his custom-made Gibson guitar was reportedly cracked after the altercation had caused him to drop it. He temporarily left the stage to repair his instrument and ultimately came back to finish the show with the rest of the band. Number 5. Dylan Avila. Entertainer Dylan Avila served as the master of ceremonies for a stand-up comedy show at the local 907 bar and restaurant in Renton, Washington on January the 5th of 2015. According to several eyewitnesses, Avila was about to introduce the next comedian to the stage when an audience member suddenly charged towards him. The man was wielding an aluminium baseball bat, which he proceeded to swing at Avila's head. He was struck twice before fellow comics and other members of the crowd intervened to contain the attacker. Avila was immediately taken to the hospital, where it was determined he'd suffered a double skull fracture. It was reported that he required 2 titanium plates in his head and 20 staples across his skull to repair the damage that had been inflicted by the fan. Although he largely recovered from his traumatic brain injury, doctors told Avila that he would continue to experience lingering effects, including heightened emotions and increased fatigue, for many years. It later emerged that Avila's assault had been carried out by fellow comedian Steve Baldwin. who'd performed at the local 907 on multiple occasions in the past. Many reportedly found Baldwin's comedy routine to be offensive and unfunny, so Ailla and the club's owners banned him from performing at the venue. Investigators believe that he targeted Ailla as a form of retaliation. Baldwin was arrested on assault charges, while Ailla used the ordeal as inspiration for a one-man show called My Turn at Bat. He debuted the performance, which reportedly addressed his horrific bludgeoning in detail at the Rendezvous pub in downtown Seattle on January the 6th of 2018. Number 4. Billy Sharp. Billy Sharp, an English professional footballer and captain of the club Sheffield United, was attacked by a fan who ran onto the pitch following the EFL Championship semi-final match. On May the 17th of 2022, cameras that were live covering the event captured the incident, which prosecutors would later deem a deliberate and senseless act of violence. Although many members of the crowd had poured onto the pitch after the conclusion of the match, the suspect, later named as Robert Biggs, dodged other spectators as he ran directly towards Sharp. Upon reaching the footballer, 30-year-old Biggs knocked him to the ground by headbutting him in the face. The team captain reportedly required 4 stitches on his lip in the attack's aftermath. In the early hours of the following morning, local police located Biggs and placed him under arrest. He was charged with assault causing actual bodily harm and was consequently jailed for 24 weeks. The judge presiding over the case also ordered that Biggs, who was a season ticket holder for the Nottingham Forest Football Club, be banned from attending any football matches for a period of 10 years. Nottingham Forest indicated that they were issuing Biggs a lifetime ban from any future club events. Number 3. Dave Chappelle. Comedian Dave Chappelle was attacked by an audience member during a live performance at the Hollywood Bowl Amphitheater in Los Angeles on May the 3rd of 2022. The incident occurred at around 10:45 p.m. as Chappelle was nearing the end of his stand-up routine, which was part of the Netflix as a Joke comedy festival. Footage from an audience member's cell phone captured the moment 23-year-old Isaiah Lee charged the stage and lunged at Chappelle. Moments later, the attacker was tackled to the ground by security and led off the stage. Chappelle was unharmed and subsequently carried on with his performance, while the stage invader, who'd reportedly suffered multiple injuries, was taken to a local hospital. The following day, the LAPD announced that Lee had been arrested on a felony charge of assault with a deadly weapon, as he'd reportedly been carrying a replica handgun with an ejecting knife blade at the time of the attack. Video clips of the incident, as well as Chappelle's comments in its immediate aftermath, went viral on social media. Many praised Chappelle for the poise and professionalism he'd exhibited throughout the threatening situation. Lee, who was reported as suffering from mental health issues, later claimed that he'd been triggered by the comedian's jokes about homeless and transgender people. Number 2. Lester Chambers. Prominent soul singer Lester Chambers performed at the Hayward Russell City Blues Festival in downtown Hayward, California on July the 13th of 2013. At one point during the show, the 73-year-old musician announced that he was dedicating the Curtis Mayfield song People Get Ready to the late Trayvon Martin. The latter was a Florida teenager who'd been gunned down during an altercation with a man named George Zimmerman in 2012. Earlier on the day of Chambers' performance, Zimmerman had been acquitted of second-degree murder charges in connection to Martin's killing. Shortly after the singer's mention of the slain teen, a female member of the audience, identified as Diana Lynn Andrews Potter, loudly exclaimed, "It's all your fault." She then rushed the stage and forcefully shoved the elderly singer. Other musicians sharing the stage with Chambers managed to restrain the woman until she was taken into the custody of Hayward police. Many believe that Andrews Potter's attack had been racially motivated, and Chambers' family therefore pushed for her to be charged with a hate crime. However, the Alameda County District Attorney reportedly found no evidence that racial hostility had played a part in the incident. Andrews Potter was ultimately charged with felony assault and elder abuse as a consequence for the attack, which had left Chambers with bruised rib muscles and nerve damage. Number 1. Ally Brooke. Singer Ally Brooke, one of the founding members of the Miami girl group Fifth Harmony, was assaulted during a live performance in Mexico on the night of September the 29th of 2016. A crazed fan rushed the stage and grabbed 23-year-old Brooke by the hair before attempting to drag her away. Within seconds, a security guard approached the attacker and removed him from the stage. During the encounter, Brooke was knocked to the ground as her bandmates and the thousands of audience members in attendance watched on in complete shock. She then got back up, seemingly unaffected, and even blew a kiss to her attacker before resuming the performance. The incident occurred just 2 days after Brooke had been accosted by a fan at the Monterrey International Airport in Nuevo León. An unnamed individual had grabbed the singer shortly after the group had arrived in Mexico and were making their way through a crowd that had gathered to see them in the airport lounge. In the wake of that experience, Brooke had pleaded with Fifth Harmony fans to be careful and gentle so nobody gets hurt. Would you rather be able to accurately predict the weather for the rest of your life, or learn on exactly what day you will stop living? Let us know in the comments section below.